They're literally in marketing, the equivalent of someone wanting a six-pack and, like spending all their time on the sofa eating pizza and then doing 10 squats, which is not the right thing to do, and expecting to get a six-pack. There's nothing more soul-destroying for, like a proactive person than being, in that restrictive straitjacket.
Is there a marketing tactic that everyone right now is obsessed with that you believe from your experience or little you have read is massively overrated?
A lot of companies, agencies, or gurus are offering to be number one in ChatGPT. That's just a scam, right? If you're suffering from the massive current problem that would make you direct your attention to it, and that's the only way you can evolve is by stopping churn, then there's something fundamentally wrong about your business.
Is there something that SaaS founders get wrong about marketing or misunderstand?
Usually how much effort and budget it takes to achieve an outcome they want it to be. Money is a renewable resource, a lot easier to make up for money that costs time.
Hey everyone, this is Saeed with Messy Growth. Today's guest is someone who's spent years deep in the trenches of SaaS marketing and product growth. I'm joined by Emilia Korczynska. She's the VP of Marketing at Userpilot, a platform used by product teams to improve product adoption and user engagement. She comes highly recommended by some of the other guests that I spoke to at this very show. So Emilia, she's built her career at the intersection of product growth and content, leading marketing efforts that focus not just on acquiring new users or customers, but on improving the entire lifecycle from first touch point all the way down to activation and retention. So the right-hand side of the bow tie as well. Before stepping into the VP role, though, she spent years scaling marketing at Userpilot, building the content engine, experimenting with acquisition channels, and helping position the company as a major voice in the product-led growth space. But what makes Emilia really interesting, though, is that she's not just a marketer, she's also a founder, having previously built and exited a startup in China. She's someone who thinks deeply about how products actually grow in the real world. So today we're going to be talking about product-led growth, experimentation, what most SaaS companies get wrong about marketing, and how to actually build a growth engine that compounds over time. Emilia, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you for such a warm welcome. I don't know what to say, really.
I think this is one of those tricky things where I introduce people. They're like, you're hyping it up. I better back that up
for sure.
But thank you so much for joining. Like I said, I mean, I spoke to your colleague Cass, your friend. She highly recommended you, and I've been following your profile on LinkedIn. I think we connected a while ago, and I would love to squeeze as much knowledge as I possibly can within the next few minutes here. But I want to start off with a question, which is, you didn't start in SaaS at all. You were a journalist, a linguist, and even launched a startup in China, which I told about in my intro. What was the moment when you realized marketing, especially marketing in SaaS, is the direction you want to head in?
And at some point I was getting more and more requests for translation of blog content, basically for SEO of like SaaS companies that were, based in Europe, based on the continent, and wanted the content to be localized into English, or also vice versa. So English SaaS companies that wanted the content to be localized into European languages for SEO. So that's kind of what piqued my interest. And then I was also dating a startup founder.
Oh, there you go.
I happened to be a SaaS, and obviously I was seeing it at a very, very close range, and I liked what I was seeing, because unlike service businesses that I was, used to, both of my parents are running service businesses, small, service businesses. This seemed a lot more scalable and a lot more relaxed. At this point, I was running a translation agency for a few years, and it was challenging at points. You really didn't have a life because of how unpredictable it was. You would get an assignment, and one of your contractors would just drop off the night before a court hearing, and you had to somehow find someone in a different time zone to handle the situation and the debate calls. So I was like, oh, the kind of scalable business where, you're making money in your sleep. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's the exciting part of it, right? Like it's, I think a lot of the appeal for SaaS is the fact that once you get the right motion in place, it's an infinite money glitch, for lack of a better way to put it. I mean, if you have a very good product and you do everything right, or you continue to do things right,
which never happens.
But I think you can start to fix some of the elements, right? Which will lead you to have the growth, especially at Userpilot, for instance, the journey you guys have been at. Which kind of leads me to my second questions. When you look back at your early career, Was there a transition period? What did you have to completely kind of like unlearn to become a real operator? Just to give you an example, I went from sales to customer success, and sales is just so transactional, regardless of whatever people might say. It's still very transactional. At the end of the day, you have to ask people to sign on the dotted line or ask for money. Was there a period like that for you where you kind of like, okay, this is what I did now, now that I'm going to SaaS marketing specifically, this is what I gotta unlearn, some of the habits and some of the practices.
I wouldn't say there was like, this very, very sharp transition for me. It was a gradual and like I've
Mm,
always I feel had more of a marketing mindset. So, um, I wouldn't say, it was radical. What I had to unlearn ultimately, when I moved into more managerial and leadership positions was, being able to delegate and being able to actually like get comfortable with the fact
mm,
that I'm not going to be able to control everything and I'm not going to be able to do everything myself because I originally had the mindset that, oh, I need to be an expert in everything and I need to, be able to do everything better than my team, which is
yeah.
the exact kind of opposite of what the mindset
Mm,
you should have in order to be able to scale and build a successful team. Because you don't want to build a team of people that are kind of look up to you for every decision and that you have to micromanage and that you have to tell how to do something,
yeah.
right? I read this book a couple of years ago that is really, really good for people that have a problem with delegation and with, I guess, trusting that there is someone that can do the job better than yourself. It's who, not how. And that kind of really flipped my mindset that you don't want to know actually how to
Mm,
do everything you need to do. You just need to know who can do it better than yourself.
yeah, absolutely. You know, it's something
Mm.
interesting you said about if you've built out a team where people are looking up to you for decisions, basic ones as well, or asking you for direction every time and not using their um, essentially their own skill set and decision making powers to be able to go ahead and do things. Fully understand that that's probably not a culture you're going to thrive in very well, but at the same time, do you think is that top down? It's because a lot of the managers they kind of like they set the direction, which is like if we set certain type of behaviors within the team, people will act that way. For instance, for compliance purposes, like for instance, if you take initiative and you go do things and you're shot down and you're then later presented with critique next time around, you're not going to go ahead and take that initiative as an employee. You're just going to, as an IC, you're just going to go ahead and wait for direction before you go forward. Do you think it's a lot of that is in there in terms of culturally, or is it more about individual level, so to speak, and not the company level?
It's a bit of both, so like the proactive individuals that have the agency to do things themselves and have the growth
Mm,
mindset to learn how to do things without, like referring back to the SOP or their manager. Like if these people are put in the environment where, they have to ask for permission for every tiny decision they want to make, and they need to, like document absolutely everything and kind of follow SOPs to the letter, they're not going to thrive and they're going to retract and probably quit the company at some
yeah,
point because there is nothing more soul destroying for, like a proactive person than being,
yeah,
put in that restrictive
constraint. Yeah,
straitjacket. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So that is very much the case, but there are just people that, maybe haven't yet learned
yeah,
that they can basically now answer any question they have in the world with LLMs. There's like literally at this point no excuse for
mm,
saying I don't know how to do something.
yeah.
Right?
100%. There's just a lot of resources in place for you to
Yeah.
go ahead and get to an answer. For instance, I would ask you, I imagine you've hired a lot of people in your career. Is there a way to spot check that in an interview?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I used to do these tasks where, I just literally ask someone to use a tool in front of me they've never used. And to
Mm,
basically like it was specifically Userpilot to accomplish a certain outcome with Userpilot, even though they've never used it. And that would check two things, like basically how quick someone was on the uptake, how quickly they would, grasp how the tool works. and if they would be willing to actually look for answers and just figure things out on themselves, on their own themselves, without like asking me.
Yeah. That's a pretty good way to do it. Shifting back to your expertise, one of the things is like I want to talk about growth a little bit, which is like most SaaS companies, when they say they care about growth, everybody wants it. In reality, they're just producing a lot of content and hoping something just sticks against the wall, so to speak. What's the difference between activity and actual growth strategy that companies apply and do?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think strategy is a repeatable, basically, set of activities, right, with a clearly defined outcome. And what a lot of companies do is, as you said, they just like throw the pasta on the wall and see what sticks. And but they often don't even have a way of measuring what sticks. So that's the biggest problem when you set out to do something and you don't have a clear objective, and then you don't know if it's working or not. You don't know if what you've done is enough to see the outcome that you're expecting to achieve. A funny example, a lot of people expect, like when they do SEO or cold outreach or LinkedIn ads or whatever other channel they engage in, they just expect a certain outcome to like blow their mind, and then they don't see it. But they don't realize that the amount of effort they've put in is just disproportionately small to the outcome they have set out to achieve. It's a lot easier to imagine that, if you want to get a six pack, you need to go to the gym, like, 3 to 5 times a week. And you need to do certain exercises, and you need to, consume a certain amount of calories and be on a certain diet and move, etc., to achieve that outcome. But they're literally in marketing the equivalent of someone wanting a six pack and, like spending all their time on the sofa eating pizza and then doing like 10 squats, which is like, not the right thing to do, probably, and expecting to get a six pack. So that's the kind of situation I feel marketers often find themselves in, that expectations are not realistic.
Yeah, 100%. I want to sidebar this conversation a little bit and ask you, I've been always fascinated with people, and I've had a good fortune of talking to a lot of talented people that have also had a good fortune of working at some pretty big companies. And I always ask them because from the outside, it looks like they have their crap together and, they work their way to the top. There's a lot of luck involved. You and I both know that. Right timing, right place, knowing the right people, so on and so forth. Did you imagine this is where you would be when you started out your career, or even a couple of years into your career?
Didn't imagine anything like that. Right. So I didn't know when I started my career, I didn't even know SaaS existed. It wasn't really a thing. I'm old enough to say that. So no, I didn't. And this wasn't exactly something that I planned for myself. It turned out very well. I'm very happy with the outcomes.
Perfect. I want to talk about something else here real quickly. So Userpilot is interesting product growth, product adoption space. In your experience, what's the biggest mistake SaaS companies make between sign up and activation?
Yeah. I guess, like leaving the users to their own devices. So a lot of companies like literally don't provide any onboarding for the new signups. At best they send a couple of emails, but really the in-app experience is confusing. There is a lot of friction for the new signups, and ultimately they don't know what kind of outcome they're able to achieve when they sign up for the product, especially if it's a more complex platform and there are different personas using it and signing up with different like objectives. And you need to be very clear knowing your audience first, like asking them a couple of questions during the sign-up flow, but again, not too many, not to overwhelm and increase your drop-off rate, but just enough. And this is usually just the role. You don't need to ask them for a company size, telephone number, shoe size, etc.
Why not?
Yeah. Because it's going to increase the friction and a lot of people will be dropping off, like, especially these days when there's so much competition and so many alternatives to test. In the self-serve F&B sector especially. So when you just know the role...
Let's just say there's a sign up workflow, right? And which
Yeah.
is what a lot of companies call the onboarding wizard. You're trying to extract information from the person. I'm assuming for the reasons of putting them into different drip campaigns, pushing them over to sales for more sales-led operations. Should companies be enriching that data without having to ask? What would be the better approach here in order to make sure people do sign up and get activated?
Yeah, so you can enrich a lot of data just based on the work email, and you don't need anything else. What you can't enrich is actually the job to be done that this person has. You can, to an extent, infer it from their role. But for instance, in our case, at Userpilot, we have product managers, product marketers, customer success persona, and a lot of their responsibilities, overlap one way or the other. And they come to Userpilot with different objectives, with different jobs to be done. So for instance, they want to improve user activation, but they also want to improve product adoption. They want to increase retention. They want to, the flip side of this is prevent churn. But some of them want to also test, I don't know, certain UX redesigns, right? So we don't know when a person with either of these roles signs up, what do they really want to achieve? And the best way to activate your user, because the activation point is different for every user based on their outcomes, based on their objectives. So you need to know what they want to achieve. And this is the most important question you need to ask. Everything else you can enrich through third-party tools, vendors, and a secondary. And the objective is not to pass this person on to sales or send them a drip campaign. Actually, the objective is to allow them to achieve their desired outcome and reach that activation point, because the activation point is the point when they reach value, ideally during their first run experience. It's not always possible with every tool, right? But if you can lead them to the outcome they came for in the first session, do it.
I might be a little bit ingenue here, and please throw me some rope here. I'm not well versed in the ways of the marketing in SaaS, but shouldn't the objective be whether or not you're a 1 to 10 size company or a 1,000 size company, you should all get activated. So let's build an experience that doesn't matter who signs up, they get to the I'm not a huge fan of the term, but at the aha moment, so to speak, very quickly. Is that what you would consider activation done right? Or every single company has a unique style of buying, purchasing, testing, and we should curate that experience in the app according to what type of the company or the size of the company they are?
As usual in marketing, it depends, but I don't think it depends that much on the size of a company. Sometimes it may. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but usually it's about the outcome. It's about the job to be done that you need to get done and what you want to achieve. So this is literally the most important thing you need to know to build that experience that's going to lead people to that aha moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Talk about something which is a lot of companies, rightfully so, obsess about activation 100%, but they also obsess about the other side, the acquisition side of things, because that's where the money is. But I would argue, and I've spoken to a lot of people that argue, sure, that the left-hand side of the bow tie is very important, but right-hand side is equally important, the retention side of things, because that's where the real money is. You can make $1, sure, but if you're losing 20, 30 cents from your existing bucket every single day, week, or month, you have a leaky bucket. You're not going to be able to go far, because at some point acquisition channels are going to dry up. You'll have to find new. So it's a lot easier and better to focus on the current customers that you have. So the retention side. Why do so many SaaS teams still get that balance wrong, focusing on the left-hand side and not paying nearly enough energy? Because even if you look at the big companies out there, like the Lovables of the world, and I keep giving that example, they talk about $100 million made and sold in 2-3 months or 8 months or what. That looks perfect. What about the retention? What about the folks that are coming in and just churning out again and again and again? At some point, that TAM is going to dry up.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the most difficult and most complex question you could ask, honestly.
Sorry about that.
Again, it really, really depends on the company. Like for companies like Lovable, ironically, like a certain level of churn is inevitable. And they may try to re-engage people, and like if someone has built an app using Lovable, they probably, if they deployed it through Lovable, they will want to host it. But, there is a huge host of people that just double and, they needed something like a one-off, they've deployed it, they've self-hosted it, for instance, and then they're done. And they may come back at some point to Lovable, but if they're done, they're done. And, you can't really influence people's behavior and objectives to the point where you're going to have zero churn. So that's A. And B, if you just retain your users, you're still not growing. You're kind of staying level, right? If you have a massive, massive churn problem, then you need to also ask yourself if it's not a product problem or if it's not literally your positioning or basically the market problem.
Yeah.
Because you can't plug a massive churn with a few tooltips or
No, that's
onboarding
not going to
flows
happen.
or an email sequence. So if you're suffering from the massive churn problem, that would, make you direct your attention to it, and that's the only way you can achieve growth is by stopping churn, then there's something fundamentally wrong about your business, and you need to really, really think about it. So I would say it is justified. The companies think about acquisition more than they think about retention. But there is always the crossover point where, you need to also think about your retention, especially if your ticket size is really, really large, right? So if you acquire a few companies on a monthly basis, but they're really large enterprise companies, you definitely need a customer success team to take care because every customer that leaves is a massive chunk of your ARR.
Yeah, 100%. Would you, and I know I'm going off the tangent here a little bit. Customer support, I believe, is fundamental. You got to have customer support for folks that are coming in with technical questions or anything that is frontline reactive. But you also believe that a customer success department should be equally as important as sales, or you kind of feel like that first, let's get the acquisition and the sales side right, and then bring in a layer of customer success, or you kind of feel like that if you have a sales team, you sure as hell should have a customer success rep, manager, or person that is essentially managing those accounts, or that is a layer that we can punt off to the later end of setting up your go-to-market motion?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends, right? Like how complex your relationship with your customer is and what is your ticket size. Obviously, in Lovable, if I spend $20 on it per month, it's not going to deploy a dedicated customer success agent that's going to be like, oh, vibe coding with me. And Emilia, have you thought of, asking that prompt and changing that button
it's not
on your
scalable.
website? It's not scalable, exactly. So, when and where it makes sense, again, it depends on these two factors mostly.
Fair enough. Let me throw out a hypothetical your way. If you join a Series B SaaS company tomorrow, and you could only focus on one growth lever for the next 6 months, so starting tomorrow, what would it be?
Yeah. So again, I would need to do some research into the company's situation, their business model, their average contract value, and then I would make the decision which channel to pick right now. If it's a very small self-serve, then I would still look into SEO or kind of more looking at geo, right? So generative.
Is it GEO? Is it AEO? Which one is it?
I think, it's kind of interchangeable. I don't like that term because ultimately boils down to SEO and link building, right? And digital PR. You can't really game the LLMs the way people expect it to happen. The way people used to game SEO is becoming more and more difficult anyway. But if you are a small startup and your ticket size is $20, then you're not going to be spending ton on ads at the beginning, especially demand gen.
Okay.
Because you're simply not going to be able to ever make that back. In any case, brand is important, right? And many companies say start brand marketing only when you're 10, 20 million plus. I think you need to start brand marketing from day one, right? And but this doesn't need to mean you're going to buy a Super Bowl ad. right? I think that's the perception of brand
Oh,
marketing that a lot of people get wrong, that, it's making these like massive, massive moonshots and basically splashing out on extremely expensive stuff. It's more like building your identity and being out there, and you can use completely free channels, especially now,
mhm,
uh, to still build your brand and build affinity.
mhm. Absolutely. So you went from marketing manager to a VP of marketing, massive difference or a jump, so to speak. What's something about leadership that nobody prepares you for when you move from an IC to an executive?
Yeah, so I think what I mentioned earlier, that you need to let go of control
Mhm.
and you need to become comfortable that you're not going to know how to do the things that you are asking your people to do. And you need to hire people that are going to figure it out, because you can't be possibly an expert in 12 different domains.
Mm, yeah, 100%. I also feel like managing people is just a different beast. It requires so much. It's constantly evolving, and there is no set strategy because humans, I mean, people just react differently based on how they're feeling, how they're working. Every week is different, every month is different. So there's just so many different factors that could be affecting this job. It really is dynamic, and I dislike that word in a lot of ways. Um, I asked this question before to somebody, and I got a really interesting remark, and I want to ask you the same exact thing. How do you personally decide whether a marketing experiment deserves more investment, or should it just outright be killed?
Yeah, am I able to repeat the positive outcomes, right? Like, I guess, again, it boils down to how you set up your experiment. Like, you need to have a clear outcome in mind and basically see if you're able to achieve it within the budget that makes sense. And if the outcome is repeatable, right? So, are you able to achieve it over and over? Um, so, something is essentially scalable, otherwise it's luck. And there is an element of luck, of course, in marketing. Say if you do event marketing, it is very much so about like whom you
Yeah.
bump into,
Hmm.
and do you happen to, like hit it off with that person and have a good conversation, and the stars align. Um, I would say for me, this is an uncomfortable level of unpredictability.
Mm.
So I haven't done a whole ton of event marketing, but I also know it works. Yeah.
Nice. Does it
But
really?
yeah, but it's kind of like unpredictable. It's basically exposing yourself to more
Yeah.
luck,
Yeah.
right? And building these personal connections, I guess, because so many teams are hosting all these events, are um running dinners, etc., etc. But when you look at CAC, right, and when you think of the alternative costs, so where else you could have spent your time and your budget,
Yeah.
then it may often turn out like, oh, actually, uh,
Yeah.
was it that helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to quantify it. And I was,
yeah.
by the way, interesting you bring that up. And we were discussing events not too long ago, and some of the quotes they're insane. I'm talking upwards of $250,000 for a conference. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Mm.
I get it. Events,
Yeah.
sure, maybe, okay. Like, what? But it's insane how expensive this is. So,
Oh,
mm,
yeah, yeah. I've
God,
never done a conference sponsorship, and
yeah,
I'm not a fan because of
yeah.
that. Exactly.
Are you a conference person though? Would you recommend people go there? I heard this so many times. She's like, I want to go to level up. Do you really level up at a conference? Like, does
No,
that
you
really
don't.
happen?
No, you don't
Yeah.
go there to level up, for sure not. Like I go to conferences personally to like, build my network, make
Yes.
connections. It's like a completely different quality if you've met someone personally, especially if
Oh
you've
yeah.
met them a few times,
Right.
reinforce that. You basically build a relationship. And then when you ask them for something, or when they ask you for something, it becomes like natural. And
Yeah.
that's very, very valuable in marketing, because however much we, want to believe that, oh, it's all based on merit and the hard work you put. No, a lot of
That's
times
right.
it's about whom you know, and they open the doors for you. And there are plenty of situations, especially if you're reliant on like a third party API, right? Like, will
Mhm.
you get access to that API? It depends on whether you know someone in the company
100%.
that can, for instance, accelerate and bump your request up. or just outright give you the access. And that happens even with huge companies.
Yes.
So, sorry to say, but there's no level playing field, and the game is still rigged towards people that are better connected.
Yeah.
So, that's one reason to go to conferences. If you can speak at conferences, that, like makes your reputation as well.
It comes back to branding, right? Like you're branding yourself out there. If vis-a-vis, it connects to the company, which in turn also gets a boost.
Yeah. And sometimes, just like kind of gets you out of your ruts, and that can be helpful to, get out there. Even though like it's a lot more efficient if we talk about CAC again, to spend 5 hours on YouTube watching videos and, or just like chatting to your LLM about something that you want to solve than going to a conference. But, like a lot of times someone tells you something that sticks with you, and it sort of rewires your brain, I feel, when you go out there and you're not chained to your desk all the time.
Yeah. I think the last point you made is absolutely perfect, which is majority of the people that I speak to, they work from home. They don't have the hybrid work environment or even a work environment. They could just go to the office. And you same routine again and again. It starts to like it really burns you down. Even though I'm talking to you, people are, is it the same? You're not. There's no fresh air. There's no nothing. You're still sitting on your seat. It's just strange how it happens. So I truly believe that there's a value of being in person, building a relationship, because people now crave it more than ever before, because of the fact that we had that COVID lockdown. Post that, now we have people working remotely. There's a lot of tangents that are tied together, which is leading more people wanted to talk in person. And of course, it's going to exacerbate how you build relationships as well, because of the fact that there's not too many of those things that are happening.
Yeah, 100%.
Right now. So advantage all around. I want to ask you something, which is, people are obsessed with Reddit right now, because I believe that Reddit did a collaboration with, I think it's OpenAI, or what is it? Wherein if you have answers in Reddit, they're gonna feed the algorithm of the LLM to show up the results in there. So people are going hard right now on Reddit. Is there parallel to that? Is there a marketing tactic that everyone right now is obsessed with? That you believe from your experience or little you have read is massively overrated?
Yeah, I believe AIO is massively, or GEO is massively overrated. Because, like it's not the same game, as I mentioned, as SEO was previously. So literally, there are so many different queries and so many different answers that the LLMs can generate based on, each individual user's history, memory, the exact way they put the query, the context in which they put it, like their previous conversations, their previous queries. It's extremely hard to control it, right? And what the LLM retrieves in real time, yes, you can increase your chances, but I wouldn't fall for, like a lot of companies, or agencies, or gurus are offering, to be number one in ChatGPT. That's just a scam, right? You can't like pay someone $500 per month to be number one in ChatGPT. Yes, you can again increase your chances by producing good content, becoming mentioned in reputable sources in the right contexts. That is very important, but you can't really game it to the extent that people think. And actually, Google imposed a penalty in like late January on websites that were overdoing it, because everyone realized that RAG is basically biased towards recency in listicles. So they would, like take an old post and change, I don't know, best marketing tactics in 2023 to best marketing tactics in 2026 and just literally update the publish date to, like gain the recency factor. And then they were producing and publishing and, like getting mentions in tons and tons of listicles. So literally SEOs are calling it the listicle penalty. I hit a lot of websites that were, like featured in too many of these self-promotional lists. So, like especially with how cheap content production has become, like some companies are overdoing it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to tie this to LinkedIn as somebody who has a massive following on LinkedIn. I mean, you enjoy the fact that,
Moderate.
excuse me, semi-moderate.
Okay.
The following on LinkedIn, you enjoy the fact that, I mean, if you post something, it's going to get a lot of eyeballs. What is your opinion of, and I've seen a higher frequency, so to speak, of these posts where people are claiming they've done something, comment to get access to it. Why not just give access to people without having to get them to engage with your post? Does that not, I understand it's marketing, but isn't that just shameless marketing? Is there such a thing, or people should just be doing whatever they can in the hustle mode?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the purpose of this is to increase engagement on the original post, right? If people comment on it, right, it basically sends a signal to the algorithm that it's an engaging post, so it's going to be circulating more, and then ultimately that's going to give you more followers, and that's ultimately going to give you more reach with your other posts as well. So we're kind of laughing at this tactic because it is a bit annoying, and a lot of times these people don't send you anything afterwards.
I've
Um,
had that.
yeah, I've had that too. But yeah, it kind of works. So we may just sigh that it's annoying, but it works.
I'm the kind of person, I like to be a little bit incognito. If you look at my LinkedIn, it's just mostly posting the videos about the interviews that I do. I don't post much. I don't have the capacity to do it. But if somebody were to give real good information, I would honestly just Venmo them money, like just send them like $50, just privately. Can you just send that over to me? I don't want to comment because then it's like a whole thing. So I commented, people look at it. Maybe I'm in my head too much, but I think a better tactic would just
Yes, you
be
are.
like, that's probably it. I'm thinking about people too much. But I think it would be a good way for me to go ahead and pay for service and just say, hey, can I get that for you? I think that would be a lot better thing. But maybe I haven't cracked that LinkedIn nut anyway. So that's why I have 3,000 followers, moderately low for the most part.
That's a
Um,
good start.
that's a
It's
good
harder
start.
to get followers than it was when I started posting on LinkedIn. So most of my followers come from the old good days.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now algorithms are hampering us. Okay, I'm making that up on YouTube. So what do you know? um, do you think that you talked about content? AI content is extremely cheap to
Mhm.
produce. Now, literally, you can set up prompts. You can put your style of writing inside of Claude, and Claude will, for a lack of a better or not, it's going to produce a pretty good piece of content that then you
Oh
can use and
yeah.
evolve from there, right? Use that as a
Yeah.
building block. So, do you feel like that the role of marketing is becoming more important or less important in a world where AI can just generate endless pieces of content? It can even tell you 100 next content pieces that it should write. Give me a prompt, I will write them for you. Um, Feels like, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to answer if it's becoming more or less important. And I know people want to hear that it's becoming more important. I think, someone still needs to be in the driving seat, and decide what to produce, what content to produce. But even with that, I've heard marketers are getting great ideas from AI, like even what to do, how to engage their audience. Like at this point, we still need to be building these systems, like even Claude Code, these are not fully autonomous, right? Or
No.
even if you're using Open Cloud, it's not fully autonomous. You still need to tell it what you want
Yeah,
to build,
yeah,
and making these critical decisions, at least at this point, is what makes the difference. Because if everyone has access to the same tools, who wins? And this is like ironically where, the level field becomes even less level.
yes,
And the person who wins is the person that can afford like people with the highest clout and basically the most authority, like the best experience, someone that's going to be believable, someone that's going to be an influencer. So I think like the importance, the significance of influencer marketers is going to increase. So
mm,
someone that brings more to the table than the ability to produce content and the skills to orchestrate AI tools to produce
yeah,
content. It's, as you said, like the quality basically of the output from Claude, for instance, depends on the quality of the input.
Yeah, the
So who
prompt,
can,
that's where the magic is.
not just the prompt, I would say the context, right?
Context,
Because
excuse me.
you can have the same prompt with different context, and one is going to produce crap and the other one is going to produce really, really
Absolutely.
high quality content. And the difference is like who can feed your context, original information, data, personal experience, their, followership, the cloud of their opinions.
Mhm.
So that is something I would say that makes a difference.
Yeah, 100%. As someone who's kind of like climbed the ladder and you sit at the pinnacle of marketing, you look at it and you see AI coming through, and AI can write content. We have already discussed that. It can personalize emails. It can analyze marketing funnels very well, give you feedback on where exactly there are drop offs, so on and so forth. Then what becomes the real skill of a great marketer that sets that person apart from all these things that are happening down flow?
Yeah, knowing what to build and kind of thinking outside the box in terms of like what is worth investing time into, and then what's the most efficient way if we kind of go a layer deeper, right? And we speak of GTM engineers that are orchestrating these semi-autonomous systems, then understanding, like what is the most efficient way to go about it. I mean, I believe with a little bit of determination, nowadays anyone can build anything,
Oh,
right? Like
100%.
literally, you can vibe code, as you say, anything and
Yes.
deploy it, and it's really crazy what these no-code tools can do. You probably would have a hard time sometimes troubleshooting or choosing the best method, or making sure, like the AI is not doing something in the background that like makes the solution you're building unscalable. So I still don't think you can completely vibe code a robust, enterprise platform without any insight from an engineer, a professional that kind of understands what the AI does on a deeper level. But you can do a lot, and as long as you know kind of what is worth investing in and how to best orchestrate it, then like these are the most critical skills.
100%. 100%. Is there something that SaaS founders get wrong about marketing or misunderstand?
Yeah, usually how much effort and budget it takes to achieve an outcome they want to achieve. And it's
I mean, I
hilarious
give you
sometimes.
$1,000. That should be enough
Yeah,
for 1,000 signups.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, like that. Or people imagine that if they send cold outreach, like, they're going to get 10% positive response rate and that this is normal. I had like, I posted about our like semi-automated outreach outcomes recently.
Yeah.
And this is probably the best we've done in, many, many years.
Mm.
And for us, it's a huge achievement. But of course, a lot of people that are doing outbound jumped at it and they were like, oh, this is crap results, right? This
Yeah.
just shows that marketing isn't working, spray and
Mm.
pray. But it really wasn't spray and pray. And in our industry, with our personas,
Yeah.
these are good outcomes. And we've really tried multiple times in multiple different ways. And it's just that the willingness to pay is low, right? And
Yeah.
the personas maybe not that
Yeah.
super like responsive, right? Like maybe marketers are very responsive to
Yeah.
outreach, but like product managers, not really.
Yeah.
So there is that the expectations often exceed the possible reality by such a far margin that
Yeah.
marketers get disappointed and ditch viable channels way too soon.
Yeah. 100%. I also think that there's a factor of tool fatigue. I think people get, even me, and I'm a nobody in the sense of like, I don't have any decision making power to buy a lot of tools or anything really. But I get a lot of emails, and it's just there is so much noise, and there is .ai and .io, and then instantly and instant verily and warmly, and then by sure, why not? Right. So I think there was a lot of that in there, is that people, if they want something that before you'd go through the to your Google, you'd find something, there'd be 1 or 2 tools. Now there's 15 tools. You don't even know what to pick, and then you start getting blasted off as soon as you leave your email every day. So I think there's potentially a lot of that in there as well. I want to ask you some last question before we head into our rapid fire round, Malia, which is, if you had to start your career from zero today, no network, no reputation, no experience, but you still wanted to become a VP of marketing in SaaS over time, what would be the path you would choose and how would you do it?
Yeah, if I had zero experience, I would do either of two ways. I would like either ask a really good company on a fast growth trajectory to work with them even for free, you know. I
Fair
would
enough.
just do anything for them to hire me. Or B, I would build something myself and kind of build in public, and definitely either way, whichever of the courses of actions I would choose, I would post about it on LinkedIn, on X, and make sure that I gain visibility.
Does X
So
work?
I don't use it personally.
Okay.
So I think it works. It works for a lot of founders. There's like a strong community of tech SaaS founders on
Okay.
X. So if someone has a large following there, yeah, I think it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Even if you don't have followings, I think, I was talking about this ironically with somebody yesterday. Said it's not about a million views. It's about the one right view, the one person looking at it that is your target audience and goes, oh crap, wait a minute. I could use that. They go onto your website, and then, the whole thing starts from there. So if you're not using X, there's a factor of 0 chance that anybody will look at it on there. That might be a potential audience. So something I recommend, and I've gotten advice that, okay, you could have LinkedIn as a channel, but you should also have Reddit, X, Instagram, I don't know, whatever, because you have no idea where the next audience is or where the next person is that ends up buying your product or becomes an investor or hell becomes a co-founder or partner in any way, shape, or form. So putting yourself out there, I think, is a great tactic, and see what sticks. I mean, this is fantastic. I made a ton of notes. I want to head into our rapid fire round. Very quick questions, very quick
Rapid fire
answers.
round.
You're about to find out. These are the only questions that nobody knows what's coming. But
Okay, cool.
pretty much the same. Best advice you received, business or personal?
If you feel like quitting, learn to rest, not to quit.
Damn. Okay. Can I probe into that a little bit?
Yeah.
What if that thing that you want to quit from is toxic for you? Would you still recommend resting over quitting?
Well, no, obviously, if you put your hand on the hot stove, right, like do quit that behavior. But we're talking about the situations where, you're working towards a goal and, you're probably doing what you love. But obviously, especially if you've been going super, super hard at it, you get tired. And a lot of times you're like, oh, I don't want to be doing this anymore. Like, ask yourself a question if it's true or you're just tired and you need some rest. And this is what a lot of founders don't do enough.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm not a founder, but I have had this conversation with my wife even a couple of days ago. So I'm so tired because I enjoy talking to people so much, but there's the editing part, there's the reaching out part, there's the prep part, there's post-production. And she's like, okay, great. Do you enjoy it? Yes. Then slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
We're getting
Yeah,
burned.
or find someone, you can outsource the parts that you don't
Exactly.
like for literally $50, $100 and,
Exactly.
spend more time doing the things you're really good at and enjoying.
100%.
So,
On the flip side, advice that you ignored or wish you had listened to.
yeah, it will be quite ironic. Like sometimes, staying too long in situations that I have outgrown. And basically, not, I guess I'm a bit risk averse. So I'm not like thinking big enough and being bold enough. And that has kind of reflected throughout my career and business journey that I was reluctant to
Make the
spend
jumps.
money. I was reluctant to make certain investments, and I was scared of making them for way too long. And sometimes I'm beating myself up that I didn't start something or I didn't start doing something earlier.
Yeah.
100%.
It's a regret that I know a lot of people face, but you just got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom, interestingly enough, we have this tradition in our house, which is if you're traveling somewhere. Back when I was traveling when I was young, obviously people didn't used to travel that much. Travel wasn't that cheap, but she used to give me $100, and she said, "You put $100, and you only spend it in an emergency or whenever you have nothing left." And she says that either you come back with $100 home, or you come back with an interesting story of where it went. Uh, I was like, and that's the kind of like strategy I've always had in my life, which is
How many
what's
interesting stories did you come back with?
quite a lot. One time I had it in my sock because I was robbed. But the point is that
Oh,
$2
wow.
saved me. The point is that you just try it. Worst come worst, you're gonna come out with with an interesting story that in turn will catapult you to a different role or a different position in your life. So, wonderful advice. Thank you. What would you tell your younger self, say 7 to 10 years ago?
Yeah, kind of referring back to what I just mentioned in my previous answer, just go for it and, like don't be afraid to take risks that, money is a renewable resource and it's a lot easier to make up for, like lost money than lost time.
Oh, damn,
Mm.
Amelia, why you got to do this on a morning with me? Have that in. Yes, yes, yes. Time is one resource that you're never going to be able to get back,
Yeah.
for the most part. An ongoing challenge in your current work that keeps you up at night.
Oh, how to leverage the full potential of the tools that are at our disposal. So I'm obviously thinking about AI and most specifically Claude Code. I feel
Yeah,
everybody in the industry feels they are falling behind and that they're
yeah,
not doing enough and they're not like, adopting it enough. And that's definitely my pain point. I don't want my team to be spending time, like doing repetitive tasks and reinventing the wheel when there are tools that can facilitate that process 10 times faster. So far, I've implemented a process for generating landing pages, literally like everything from design to, copy for specific like ads or whatnot.
hmm,
And that works well, but it's just the tip of the iceberg.
yeah, 100%. Fair enough. That makes sense. Once you do figure out the full potential, please create that LinkedIn post, and I will comment.
Yeah, I don't think I will, but yeah.
um, your favorite restaurant?
Oh, anything that serves either laksa or like good authentic Chinese food. As you know, I
Y-
lived in China for a couple of years, so I'm a big fan
I
of Asian food.
I had a hot pot. I'm assuming that is Asian, like hot pot's Asian, more in that region.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
it was an experience because it's like you have 3 hours to eat. You can eat as much as you like. Um, a little bit of a like on the gluttony side because I took that seriously.
Oh yeah.
And I sat down for 2 hours and I ate. Really interesting experience. Really enjoyed it. I highly recommend people try that. That are skeptical. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, hot
You
pots
said
are
Claude.
fun.
Sorry.
Mm.
You said Cloudbot in Cloud Code. Is there a tool that you swear by and cannot live without?
I would say Claude Code at the moment, for sure. It is incredible, and I switched. I mean, I haven't switched entirely from ChatGPT. I still use it for some like minor everyday tasks, and
Yeah.
it has a lot of context. Uh, but yeah, it is incredible.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that's a technology that will continue to evolve, and I'm curious to see what that brings
Yeah,
with it. Amelia, this is fantastic. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Wealth of knowledge. Really enjoyed speaking to you. Where can
Likewise.
listeners find you?
Oh, on LinkedIn, of course.
There we go. Perfect. I'll add the handle in there. Is there an upcoming project, launch, talk, or event that you're excited about?
Uh, no.
Nothing.
No, there are plenty. No, there are plenty of exciting projects, of course, that I have. Like one thing is building a tool for de-anonymizing LinkedIn ad engagements and
Please share.
basically ABM on LinkedIn with my husband. So it's called DAF Zen ABM because it's
That's
gonna
an
make your
EVM.
no, not
Okay.
DAF, but a DAF. I'm saying like Zen ABM because like
Uh,
this, we all need more Zen in our
Wow.
IBM. So this is something that definitely excites me, and I'm testing a lot of these new technologies on.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. This is perfect, and I wish you all the best in your projects. Once
Thank
again,
you.
thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Folks, if you got value out of this shit with someone needs to hear it, I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.